You're watching the Segpay News Network. Today we're talking online fraud prevention with Angela Skidmore at Segpay. Hello again, it's Mark Pettit in the Segpay studio. You know, fighting online fraud takes more than technology. It takes humans on the front line to help keep your merchant site safe. Angela Skidmore is one of those humans. She is a senior fraud analyst at Segpay. She's our guest today. So Angela, you and your team look at thousands of transactions every day. When it comes to fraud prevention, what are you looking for?
Predominantly any just suspicious activity that's happening on a merchant site. So that could look like inconsistent personal data, such as the names, email addresses, to countries not aligning with their location, their IP, their bin country, and just purchasing habits. If you have a merchant site that has subscription based predominantly, then you're not going to see them making 10, 20 transactions at a time. So just following those purchasing habits and inconsistent data points is what we're really looking for.
I think the average person thinks that fraud is somebody stealing their credit card, but it's much more complicated than that, correct?
Correct. It is somebody stealing their card. It can be something as simple as that. But what we're really seeing is a lot of people having their data stolen, not just their card. So what's happening is fraudsters are infiltrating their personal email addresses, and from there, your world is their oyster. They're able to get into any of your personal accounts, banking accounts, anything, and they'll start stealing your information or using your information to commit other forms of fraud.
Pretty scary, right? All right, so let's take us into that war room where you're watching these transactions. When you see something suspicious, talk to us about what happens from that moment.
It kind of all depends on the situation. There are different levels of severity when we're coming across the fraud we see on a day-to-day basis. So one of the more common ones would be promotion fraud. Somebody who's signing up for a free trial over and over and over again, or just doing a 2-day trial or taking advantage of tokens. We'll see those users just making a bunch of transactions all at once just to try to reap the benefits. And in cases like that, we'll just notify the merchant, block the customer if need be, but that's totally up to the merchant at that point. In cases where we have more of a friendly fraud, a customer is reaching out saying, hey, I didn't do this, this is fraud. Meanwhile, we can clearly see there's 3DS authentications. It's the same user across months worth of transactions. In cases like that, we will contact the merchant if they're requesting anything more than just 1 or 2 transactions to be refunded, and we'll block their information to prevent other friendly fraud attempts.
So, Angela, it seems that fraud is ever changing. You've been doing this quite some time. How has it evolved over the years, and what trends are you starting to see?
Back when I first started in fraud, it was a lot of card testing. It will just be somebody running a handful of cards that they either acquired through their own forms of scamming or from the darknet itself. It was mostly just testing like 1 card, 2 card, 3 cards. Now we're seeing enumeration. You'll have them just have a humongous list of credit card numbers that they run through a bot system that's just testing and slamming against our merchant site, just trying to get something to stick to the system. We're definitely seeing a lot more of that happening in the online retail world. We also are seeing many more cases of friendly fraud. So users reaching out to us claiming, hey, I didn't do this. We see that a lot in our chargebacks as well. Just a lot of users saying that it wasn't them when we do have the history behind it.
Segpay operates in the high risk space. Does high risk mean higher chance of fraud?
No, not at all. Our merchants are just as susceptible to a fraud attack as any major online retailer.
And we hear about AI being used across all platforms. Are you using AI or is fraud prevention at Segpay more of a human-driven exercise?
Fraud reviews are more of a human-driven exercise for us. We are going in every day, manually reviewing thousands of transactions, going through, searching for any suspicious trends or anything that may put our merchants at risk. But fraud is something that, as you said, is ever changing, always evolving. And Segpay is working hard to implementing internal fraud mitigation tools, as well as partnering with third-party apps to solidify our fraud prevention strategy.
I'm sure that you work hand in hand with your merchants. What advice do you give merchants, if I had my own site, Angela, to keep my transactions safe?
Customer service options and help links are one of the biggest things that can help reduce fraud ratios and chargebacks. Because when a customer reaches out, they kind of want that instant gratification of wanting to be able to just say, I'm done with my subscription. I don't want this anymore. They want to be able to cancel it quickly. Or if they have a grievance and they want to reach out, they want that refund. They want to be able to get that information or get that handled immediately. So having those help links available to customers is one of the number one things that we recommend. Another would be to have some sort of internal verification tool, whether that be two-step authenticator or email validation. You want to have something that's going to be just a little bit of a buffer. And then the only other thing that I would suggest is reach out, ask questions if you're not sure about some user traffic, if you are curious about what we're seeing on your account, ask the questions. We're here to help.
You brought up chargebacks. That seems like it's become a really important subject in payment processing, especially with Visa's changes. We've talked about VAMP. Why have chargebacks become such an important topic?
See, when we receive a chargeback, a fraud complaint comes hand in hand. And if you have a merchant or a business that's experiencing too many chargebacks, the card brands can and will shut you down if your chargebacks and fraud ratios are outside of their thresholds month over month. So having systems in place and having procedures in place to monitor and mitigate any chargeback or fraud risk on your account is really important these days, because it's so easy for somebody to go online and initiate a chargeback or a fraud report.
We love real world examples of what goes on behind the scenes. Tell us about a crazy day, Angela, and something that happened in your world of fraud prevention.
I wouldn't say that this was crazy. It was back when I first started at Segpay, there was this promo fraudster. So somebody was on one of our merchant sites and they were taking advantage of a trial offer with tokens. They created, at the time when I found it, around 20 different accounts, and they were all using the same Egyptian prepaid card. It stuck out and prompted a further investigation into the merchant's history. Have they ever had Egyptian traffic? We contacted the merchant and the merchant moved to blocking the bin to prevent this user from taking further advantage of their site. And we saw no more of the activity.
Case closed. All right. So, Angela, as we wrap up here, what 2 or 3 pieces of advice would you give merchants to cut back on fraud?
Like I mentioned, it's super, super, super important to have a help link or contact us or any form of customer service for the users. A lot of the time, they really just want to get it handled. If not able to do it themselves through their account, have somebody to reach out to or that's easily accessible to cancel their subscriptions for them.
So easy access, respond to your customers quickly. That's the main piece of advice.
That is the biggest piece of advice that I can give, or at least offer a link to our customer service.
All right, Angela Skidmore, Senior Fraud Analyst at Segpay, thank you so much for taking your time to talk with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to our channel because we'll be back with more great content just like this in the coming weeks and months right here on the Segpay News Network.